What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. I'm Will, and if you've been thinking about selling a car on Bring a Trailer, I've got great news for you because I'm going to document my journey selling my Porsche 911 in hopes that you guys learn a thing or two about maybe what goes well and what doesn't go well for me. This is episode 2 in this mini series for my channel. To get you up to speed, episode 1 that I published last week was all about picking the car up and getting it prepared for Bring a Trailer. Side note, I've hired a company called the Patina Group to assist me with my auction. The gentleman that owns it has done 170 of these Bring a Trailer auctions, and so I figured in order to maximize my auction results, I want to pull an expert in and also have him share with you guys some best practices throughout this series. So in this week's video, episode 2, I'm going to take you guys to Patrick's warehouse. We're going to talk through where we are in the process. I'll share some footage of the car, and he's going to share with us best practices for like submitting a car to Bring a Trailer and getting your listing worded right and how to manage comments and all that good stuff that you're aware of if you've been watching this site. Now, when we were shooting this video, my auction was not yet live, so imagine our surprise when it did go live the very next day after we shot this video. So my auction is currently live on Bring a Trailer. It ends tomorrow around midday. We did start strong out of the gate. I was actually very pleasantly surprised at how positively the car has been received, and I'm also pretty happy with where we are from a bidding standpoint. And so if you're interested in checking out the auction, I'll put a link to it up over my shoulder here. And in the meantime, hopefully you learn a thing or two from Patrick. This is my first foray into selling on Bring a Trailer. I do feel that that's the best avenue to sell this car and maximize my exit. That said, I don't really know what I'm doing with regards to setting up a successful auction, so I have hired a man by the name of Patrick Pakowski with the Patina Group to assist me, and I am here at his shop, his warehouse. As you can see, there's a lot going on. We'll get into that in a moment. But in this episode, what he's gonna do is he's gonna give us an update. The car has been submitted to Bring a Trailer and accepted, and so in the spirit of giving you guys a behind-the-scenes view of what it's like to go through this process, I thought he could give us an update, and then we'll talk about his shop a little bit. So Patrick, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, so got the car down here to the building, got it up on the lift. These are inspection lifts. We don't really typically work on cars here. They're mostly just for photos and inspections. Got up underneath it, wanted to make sure we didn't have any surprises. As I figured, the car looks great underneath. A couple small bumps just from typical driving, but no damage to the underbody. Suspension looks great. Bottom of the engine is super clean. So got all our photos there. Picked a nice evening with some good weather. Took the car out to one of our spots that we like to photo. I'm a stickler for settings, so every car that we sell gets photographed outside in natural light. Got the photo set. Took about 1,100 pictures, went through the following days, got everything organized, got the application submitted to Bring a Trailer, scanned in all the documentation. I think we had 45-ish pages of super relevant, meaty documentation. As we spoke before, my approach with listing cars, especially like this, is more is more. So everything you gave me, we want to show. The application process, pretty streamlined, answer a few questions, tell the story of the car. A couple days later, we're approved, and now the car is in line for Bring a Trailer. We really don't have anything else to do on our end. We've got photos inside out, top to bottom. We've got very simple walk around video, very simple driving video, and now we're just kind of waiting to get our first draft of the listing, and we'll go from there.
What's been your experience with regards to going back and forth on the actual listing language and that kind of thing?
My approach is I want to give them everything I know about the car, whether I think it's going to make it into the listing or not. As you're aware, Bring a Trailer tries to play a neutral role in their language. So if I don't have documentation for the work that was done, it's likely not going to make it into the listing. So in order to relieve a lot of back and forth, as much detail as I can to them, while understanding there's not going to be a lot of color on their part. That's kind of where I come in once the listing goes live.
So with regards to seller comments, do you generally, when you're doing an auction, do you jump in right out of the gate and introduce yourself, or how does that play? Or how would you recommend guys handle that?
The actual process from when you approve your final draft to the car going live, it can be literally 30 minutes or it can be 2 weeks. So once I've got that final draft and I'm ready to approve it, I sit down and I take the time to write my intro comment, because that's really my first opportunity to tell the car story from my perspective and to add that color that you're really not going to see in the Bring a Trailer listing text. And also just to welcome everyone to the auction and just say, hey, I'm here, like, let's talk about it. I'm here to, promote conversation. So if you have questions, reach out to me. And not only reach out to me, but if you're serious, here's how you send me a direct message. It's really easy to get in the weeds, in the comments section, guys asking you 60 questions, one after the other. Shoot me a message, send me your phone number, I'll call you, and we can spend some time on the phone getting to know the car. I think there are questions that, make sense in the comments. I mean, obviously, if you want a ton of detail on a car that I'm selling, let's get on the phone, or take the time to write me an email and give me the opportunity to sit down and write a really detailed response. When you ask me something in the comment section, it also opens up the conversation to everyone else for like their interpretation of what may or may not be an answer, which sometimes guys are spot on and I learn something. Sometimes they couldn't be further from the truth and I have to kind of politely say, sorry, but that's not correct. And so always, if you're looking to buy a car sight unseen, I think we've talked about this before, like, send a message to the seller, get on the phone. If you don't like to talk on the phone, send them an email and really start that conversation. Don't take everything that you see in the listing as the gospel, because we're all human, we all make mistakes. And if you want really detailed, descriptive answers, things like smoking in the car, things like, hey, what's the steering feel like, how the brakes feel, that's something I'd much rather talk to someone through than make a quick comment. I have a saying, and it typically rings true from my auctions, bidders rarely comment and commenters rarely bid.
So I think about like Facebook and Facebook groups, guys that are putting cars in there at high numbers. You get the inevitable like laughing faces at the guy and just ripping him up.
Yeah.
Those aren't the people that sneak out of the weeds and buy the cars. So if you're going to go there, for example, you got to be willing to put up with that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, like we said in the previous video, the best and worst part of Bring a Trailer from a seller's perspective is the comment section. And understanding how to be polite, be diplomatic, answer questions as if the person you're talking to has serious interest, regardless of their intentions. It usually pays dividends for, A, your reputation, and B, your results.
So Patrick, if I'm honest, like, part of the reason that I have engaged you is, A, I think it's going to be an interesting experience to watch you handle it, since you've done so many of these. And secondly, I thought it'd be fun to do this on the channel. So that's part of the reason I hired you, but also it's the comments, man. Like, hopefully my channel has shown this car is very honest. I've done my best to make it as good as possible, but I just don't want to deal with trolls in the comments. And it just gives me anxiety, the thought of it, and so that's...
Well, and some of it is just, people don't know any better. They're quick to jump to conclusions. I mean, we were joking about the driving video that I made. I go to great lengths to try to reproduce audio, and this car, the induction noise that this car makes at full song is just glorious. So I literally put a microphone in the engine bay to get that sound as accurately as possible. Now, when you have a mic in the engine bay, you're going to hear the fan, and it's a high-pitched squeal. I'm sure someone's going to go, what's wrong with the transmission? I hear a transmission noise. It's not the transmission. It's a fan. This has like one of the best 901s I've ever driven, if not the best 901 I've ever driven. So that's something that we think through. It's like, am I going to have to sit back and defend how awesome this 901 is because someone heard a fan sound and didn't know what they were listening to.
Yeah, and for me, like, you know, I could certainly tell that story myself. I mean, I know this car's a ripper. It's an absolute blast, and the sounds that come out of it are awesome. But, you know, I have money at stake. And so if some guy starts ripping me up and the whole time I'm answering the comment, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose money. It's going to go away or whatever, you know?
I think that's why it's important that, you know, I made all of our content for this listing. Of course, we're going to share some of the videos documenting the history of the car because they're relevant to the story. But, you know, you have more than enough video footage for someone to get a feel for walking around this car or driving this car. It's good to see it from a third party. That's why I think it's important. And my videos are straight to the point. I'm not using drones, I'm not using music, I'm not using, you know, 5 or 6 different cameras. And I think it's great that people do that. But I just want someone to kind of feel like I'm just walking around the car, or I'm in the car, I'm ripping it through a back road, and this is what I can expect.
All right, Patrick, something else that you did talk to me about too is you set my expectation for how these 7 days are going to play. So once we light it up, we go live, you know, there's going to be a certain amount of action, and then there might be some dead space, and then, you know, and then you get the end. So I just talk us through that, man, because I know for me, again, to go back to my anxiety, if it's dead in the middle, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm chewing my fingernails. You know?
So again, the Bring a Trailer process is unique in that you have a 7-day listing. You know, traditional auction houses, you'll get the catalog 30 days in advance, but you only get really a day or two to walk around the car, to see the car. Some people argue 7 days is too long. But with these 7-day listings, typically what happens is the first day or so, first couple days, we're gonna get some good engagement. We're gonna get some funny bids. You know, we're gonna start the momentum of the auction. And I wanted to let you know, once we get into day 3, day 4, things are going to slow down. It's just kind of the ebb and flow of the process. A lot of my sellers, will go, we haven't had a comment in like 12 hours. Post some more pictures. Like, talk about this. It's just part of the process, guys. It's how it goes. Typically I'll try to save some tidbits to inject into the auction to kind of keep the momentum and the conversation rolling, but I'm not someone that's going to withhold like a driving video, for example, and like make people wait for it. So first 2 days, it's going to be in front of everyone, getting a lot of attention, and then there's going to be the next new 911 that they list, and we're going to be kind of in the dead zone, as I like to say. Then, day 6 and especially day 7, the momentum starts to pick back up. The guys that had really serious interest, they got that email alert or they got the calendar alert on their phone, and it's time to get serious about the car. So I can tell you, as someone who's bid on cars personally, it's kind of sucks when a car goes live, because you're like, well, I know what I need to know. I guess I'll just come back in 7 days and see where we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was good that you set the expectation, and truly, I think I'm just going to step away. I mean, I don't know that I'll be able to not watch it, during the final few hours, but my philosophy is, I turn something over to an expert, I let them do their thing. Patrick, thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this thing. If anybody out there is trying to sell and bring a trailer, I'm sure this is good.
Yep, no problem.